I'm making this video because I voted for Trump. And a lot of my followers are Trump supporters. I just don't think we have the same Donald Trump that we had circa 2016 to 2020. This is not the same man. Somewhere along the way, he lost his way. To deny help to tornado victims. Then I heard he denied further assistance from FEMA to North Carolina. This is not the man we voted for.
He's still the same man. So Donald Trump, from the first election, denied aid to California based off of how the people voted. It wasn't until a person who was close to him within the administration said, yo, there are counties that voted for you, before he decided, okay, let me give them aid during these wildfires. Again, that was in the first term. He also, in the first term, withheld disaster relief funds to Puerto Rico. So he is the same guy. Also, to you, thank you for coming on here, and I appreciate you and I commend you for getting up on this app and saying, you know what, I was wrong about something, and that takes guts, and I'm really glad you did that. Anyways, my name is Mercedes Chandler. Give me a follow or you won't see my face again. Thank you, goodbye.
Catastrophic and unprecedented $12.5 billion loss for tourism. You heard me correctly. $12.5 billion loss just in 2025. This is going to be catastrophic for the United States of American tourism. People are not coming for business travel. They are not coming for conventions. They are not coming here for vacation. They are not coming here because of the trade war, because we are now actually on a national human rights watch list. You heard me correctly. For the first time ever, the United States of America is a danger to human rights. States like Florida, California, Nevada, specifically Las Vegas, and other major tourist cities are going to suffer devastating consequences. Have you changed your plans to travel for work, personal, or business to the United States or in between states? This is going to be an economic disaster we may never recover from.
All hell is breaking loose in the United States because of the pathetic tantrums of man-baby Donald Trump. Let me just talk to you about charts, graphs, objective data, not the BS that Donald Trump and MAGA spews. All hell is breaking loose because of this felon. Let's take a look at this chart right here. The 30-year mortgage rate has now jumped to 7.5%, one of the highest levels in the entire century. Apple is now one of the worst performing Magnificent Seven stocks, the worst in 2025, with a year-to-date decline of 22%. And that's because the man-baby Donald Trump woke up in the morning yesterday and attacked Apple directly, of America's biggest companies, and Donald Trump said he wanted to impose a tariff on Apple. Donald Trump also said he wanted to impose 50% tariffs on the European Union, which effectively would be an embargo on doing business with the European Union. That caused our markets to tank. Now, this follows, of course, Donald Trump imposing 145% tariffs against China, which then he sent Scott Bessent and his other trade representative Jameson Greer to Switzerland to totally capitulate and cave to China and reduced 145% tariffs to 30% tariffs, by the way, which is still high, and container shipping and shipments are still very low right now in the United States of America. Let's talk about Treasury bonds. U.S. Treasury bonds now have the worst 10-year rolling annualized returns in the last 90 years. The 30-year Treasury yields are over 5%. When you look at the 10 and 20, they're rising in ways that demonstrate a great deal of volatility in the United States markets. You want to talk about groceries, you want to talk about prices. Ground beef hits new all-time highs. You want to talk about the markets? Yesterday, a disastrous day on Wall Street. The Dow down nearly 1%, the S&P down as well, and the Nasdaq.
Hello guys, I hope you're doing fine wherever you are watching us from. And today's episode, we are looking at the MAGA supporters regretting their choice. Before I give out my commentary, let's watch some of the videos. Then I come back with my full commentary. If you're watching us for the first time, please don't forget to hit that subscription button. We will really appreciate that. Let's dive in.
NASDAQ was
While MAGA diehards keep chanting, "We don't care," every time someone points out the cost of Donald Trump's policies, international tourists are quietly delivering the one response that matters in Trump's America, which is they're not coming to the United States for vacations. We have new data now from the World Travel and Tourism Council. The U.S. is on track to lose over $12 billion in international travel spending this year. That's a decline of 7%. It's not because suddenly the sand on the beaches is no good. It's not because the theme parks got rid of everybody's favorite ride. It's because the rest of the world sees what the United States under Donald Trump has become: expensive, hostile, and unstable. And they're voting with their passports. Of the 184 countries surveyed, the U.S. is the only one with an absolute decline in international visitor spending. According to the WTC's CEO, quote, "The U.S. has firmly got a 'we're not open for business' sign right now." And that's correct. Germany has updated its travel advisory after several Germans were detained at the U.S. border. Canada, which used to be exempt from most of the short-term visa requirements, now has to register and submit fingerprints for any visit longer than 30 days. That's new under Donald Trump. You've got Canadian Airlines canceling routes due to declining demand. Vehicle traffic at land crossings is down significantly from Canada. So these are not anecdotes. This is an economic warning siren. The largest travel economy in the world is bleeding visitors. And MAGA's response is always, "So what? We don't want sissy Europeans and liberal Canadians coming here." Well, one of the things that you have to understand is that overseas visitors spend 7 to 8 times more than domestic tourists when they come to the United States. Canadian visitors spend 3 times more than Americans when Canadians vacation in the United States, and we're losing a bunch of them. So when conservatives and right-wingers brush this off as, oh, globalists are scared and liberals are whining, they are not understanding the math. This isn't about politics. It's about dollars. It's about cities losing tourism jobs. It's about entire regional economies built on foreign travel drying up. And you can't own the libs with a bankrupt hotel. That is what decline looks like, and it is completely self-inflicted because of Trump's policy of punish, restrict, and intimidate.
Just avoid the U.S. border. So story after story coming across, Canadians who drive down there, they're turned away, or they're asked how they feel about the great leader in the U.S. And if you say, turned away and banned for 5 years. But a lot worse, and what's been playing on my mind for the last 24 hours or so, is I read a story from the ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. Australian woman, police officer in Australia, married to an American, flew up to visit her husband, who's in the American military in Hawaii. For whatever reason, she was detained. And then she went through 3 cavity searches. There is a word that begins with an R that is associated with that. And then eventually exported back to Australia. Of course, no crime committed. It is really significant. And now the shutting down of academia at Harvard University. I mean, long we say, Sorbonne, Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard. So hopefully those academics are welcome in this country. But that's a big, broader conversation. But the grift, the horrific abuse of power happening in the United States, the deterioration of democracy in that country, which is about a 4-hour drive south of me here, it is terrifying. So we just need to stay away, and we need to welcome, everyone else, to be honest, but this database of information. So hopefully after this all blows up in their face, as fascism always eventually does, then we can be there to help them rebuild, or at least create a safe space for people to then go back to that country and try and recover from this destruction. But it is just shocking, and it's disturbing, and I have 1,000 things to talk about, but this is the pressing issue. But let's just finish with the really weird cryptocurrency grift that the Orange Man did the other night. $220 million dollars or something, some weird thing for something he knows nothing about. And it's just a continuous grift. And his relationship with Saudi Arabia and Qatar and all, I mean, it's all so obvious. But from a pure human rights point of view, just stay away from the border right now. It's obviously the right thing to do.
Well, I think you framed it exactly correctly. What did Trump supporters think they were voting for by voting for Donald Trump? And think of that in terms of the bill that just passed the House this week, that they literally named that piece of legislation the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It's about 8:30 Sunday morning, West Coast time. I'm in the city. I'm coming in to do some fun stuff today. But as I was driving in, I was listening to the Pod Save America guys. And, you know, relative to the Medicaid, the Medicare cuts, the SNAP benefit cuts in this bill, one of the guys mentioned that, you know, there was an organization who did some nationwide polling in every single congressional district, polling the issue of significant, extreme, severe cuts to Medicaid and Medicare. And do you support those kinds of cuts, or do you not support those kinds of cuts? And supporting the kinds of Medicare and Medicaid and SNAP benefit cuts that are in this bill did not poll higher than 15% in any congressional district in the United States. The vast, vast, vast majority of people who voted for Donald Trump have absolutely no idea what's in this bill other than what they're hearing from right-wing media. And from watching MAGA TikTok posts over the last couple of days, they are being fed the line that this bill is the biggest, it contains the biggest middle class tax cut in history. And that's the exact opposite of what's actually in this bill. I'm seeing all these TikToks from MAGA chuds that are like, last Thursday, every single Democrat voted against the biggest middle class tax cut in history. When the reality is that this bill, if it becomes law, would be the largest wealth transfer from the bottom 90% to the top 1% in this country's history. They got almost $2 trillion in cuts in this bill. And those consist entirely of cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and SNAP benefits. Those cuts total almost $2 trillion. Trump voters don't even know that. You know, and that post is about, where that comment is, you know, it's about today being the 5-year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd and our racial backsliding in this country. And it's like, yeah, Donald Trump's a racist, but I think he's kind of an atypical racist in that his racism and bigotry are outweighed by his greed. And I think that Donald Trump views race and racism as tools that he can use relative to his base and relative to the left, to keep his base like ginned up on this kind of stuff, while he and his billionaire friends are absolutely just looting the entire country. His supporters aren't paying any attention to that stuff. They're just happy that there's no more DEI and that they can be racist out loud in public on social media and in Starbucks now. That's enough for them, you know, because of their grievance, and they're the real victims, and yada, yada, yada. I mean, he's just using Trump is just using race and racism to distract his own supporters away from what he and the billionaire class are actually doing. And, you know, they wouldn't be able to exploit those kinds of things in the American population if those things didn't exist in the American population. And, you know, I mean, last summer before Kamala Harris got into the race, you know, my main kind of focus or impression of this past election was class struggle, was class warfare. And, you know, I've learned a lot from a lot of creators on this app, and I obviously learned a lot from living through the last 100 days of the election cycle last year when Kamala Harris did get into the race. Like, yeah, class struggle, class warfare is a huge thing, but in so many ways it's driven by racism and misogyny. And it's like, and that's been true of this country for 400 years, man. It's been true for 400 years. And so I think that's a good question, but, you know, but thinking about it in terms of, well, what did Trump supporters actually say they voted for? And it's like, you see all of these Trump supporters who are like, I voted for the economy, I voted for inflation, and I voted for immigration. And the economy and inflation, they could give two shits about now that Trump's in office. They make TikToks and videos saying, I don't give a shit about the economy. They didn't care about the economy. They were voting on racism and misogyny and bigotry and transphobia. You know, I mean, the masks came down real quick, real fucking quick after Inauguration Day. I mean, before Election Day, it was just post after post after post after post from MAGA about inflation, about egg prices, about gas prices. Trump gets in office, they're like, yeah, all that stuff's more expensive. We don't care. We just get to be racist now. That's what we voted for. We voted for that. But like I said, I mean, it's like, you know, Trump is using race and racism to distract his own supporters because he knows that works with them. He knows how effective that is with them, while he is stealing every fucking dime he can from his own supporters. And they're fine with it, I guess. They're fine with it. It's really, I mean, they will burn this country to the ground with themselves in it rather than give up their privilege, or rather than even contemplate existing in a world where they don't get to be racist and black people get to exist in the United States without being in a state of fear and having equality and a level playing field. They will burn this country to the ground with themselves in it.
What's going to happen with oil markets? Good Lord, there's so many scenarios playing out. You got OPEC possibly lying about increasing production, so everyone else will cut their capexes and lay down their rigs, and our production is falling. And if they don't increase production like they say they're going to, oil's going to skyrocket. This is absolutely a possibility. It's called paper barrels. They've been cutting production for 2 years to try to keep oil at 80. They can't do it. Maybe they figured out how to get us to do it instead. If they do increase production with our already falling production, it'll just mean a much softer market, but not a total collapse of the market unless the economy collapses. As long as we stop with the tariff stuff, the economy will be fine, I think. So OPEC, what OPEC actually does, not what they say they're going to do, what they actually do is going to matter a lot. And then you have Iran. If Israel hits Iran, oil prices are going to skyrocket. If they don't, they won't. If we make a nuclear deal with Iran, oil prices are going to fall. If we don't, oil prices are going to go up. Predicting markets in a time of conflict like this is impossible. You can only lay out the scenarios of what will happen if certain things happen. And it is completely possible that the United States is waiting to see what OPEC actually does before they make any decisions on Iran. All of these things bounce off of each other. If OPEC does not increase production, the odds of us hitting Iran are almost zero. If they do, the odds go way up. Thanks.
Republican Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, whose son gets an alert on his phone every time he views an obscene image online, and vice versa, in order to keep themselves accountable. He was just on CNN, and he was asked by Jake Tapper, like, yo, you Republicans investigated Joe Biden for allegations of corruption that don't even hold a candle to the actual corruption by Donald Trump. How come you don't care about that? What's the difference?
The difference, of course, is that President Trump does everything out in the open. He's not trying to hide anything. There's no shell companies or fake LLCs or fake family businesses. He's putting it out there so everybody can evaluate for themselves.
Good news, everybody. Crime committed in broad daylight isn't crime. So I expect Mike Johnson and all of the Republicans to no longer complain about smash and grabs. I expect them to no longer complain about people being assaulted on subways. Last summer, Donald Trump said, you can't even buy a loaf of bread without getting shot. Well, apparently if that happens in public, it's fine. And by the way, Mike Johnson, thank you so much for taking the time to explain this on a Sunday, because I know normally you would be in church. And if you're not in church, you'd be busy brainstorming new and creative ways to hurt poor people, or maybe trying to figure out how to view explicit content without your son being notified. Because after all, you're a man of God.
I want to say something right now that's going to get me. Men are going to get upset. Men are going to get upset. When are they ever not? I mean, Jesus, you'd think that they just are all in their feels all the time. So much emotions. All men in this culture are misogynists. I know. In the same way that all white people are racists. Oh, I know. I'm white. It's okay. What do I mean? You're participating in a system that unfairly benefits you. And you can't see all of the ways that it does. All right? Our whiteness prevents us from seeing racism. And so, in order to see it clearly, we must constantly put the whiteness aside. And it will get in the way of some stuff. It's the same with misogyny. You can't see misogyny because you benefit from it. It's hidden from you. It doesn't operate on you, so you don't see it. It operates on your behalf, so you don't see it. Let me give you a good example. If a man walks into a car dealership, he will experience a certain series of behaviors from the staff, correct? Right. Those behaviors change dramatically if you're a woman walking onto that car lot. It's not about what you present. It's about what people see and then present to you because of what they think you need. The tactics are different. The salesmanship is different. The way men behave towards women, different. And a man will never see that because when a man walks onto the car lot, he's treated differently. A man will never see how women are treated. Now, he may get to go to a car dealership with a woman, and he may get to see it with her next to him, but he won't see it if he's by himself. He won't see that the 5 people who were there before him, who were female, were treated badly or treated in a way that they didn't like, and the behaviors that were applied to him, they actually felt good to him because they benefit him. He's not going to see that the 5 people who came before him were treated badly because he's not going to get bad treatment. And inevitably, it ruins relationships. And there's something here that is occurring. Men start out with a partner, and then slowly they convert that into a power dynamic. They move the goalposts. And I'm going to give you an example from my own experience. When I first, you got to understand, I've known my ex-husband since we were 11. And we dated off and on for that whole time. So when we finally moved in together and became a couple and got engaged and all that, it started out mostly a team, right? He was making more money than me because he has a different line of work. And I also wasn't finished with my schooling. And neither was he. When we first started living together, he was going to grad school and I was working. He was working too, but I was working. And we were splitting the home duties fairly evenly because then I went to school and had a lot to do. And yeah, that makes sense. But then slowly over time, the goalpost moved. It was, you're still making less money than me, so maybe you should take up more slack at home. Okay. And then it went to, you want to be a writer, right? You should just stay home and write since we don't need the money. Okay, but writing is a job. Except he never wanted to see it that way. It was, you're doing your hobby at home and not getting paid for it. Yes, but that's because you told me that's what I should do. You said you understood it was an investment of my time that would pay later. If I don't invest my time now, it won't pay later. So he's sitting here saying you need to spend your time working, doing housework. Okay, so I'll divide that. But both suffer because of it. Then slowly it became, you're never going to make money at this. Stop doing it and stay home and clean all the time. He literally told me to take a day off my work to clean his house for him. What? Notice how he never thought that for himself. He never thought, wow, shit's getting messy around here. Maybe my wife is behind. Maybe I should take a day off work to help get things in order. Never occurred to him. It was me who should take the hit. And the reason in his mind is he makes more money, so I'm the one who should be doing all the things that take away from him making money. So anything that cost any time outside of his work became my responsibility. And if I couldn't do it all, I was subpar and needed some kind of intervention. Right. Which is why he decided to bring his mom into the house to manage me for him. And that turned real toxic real quick. So I just stopped doing everything. And then he got on my case saying I was lazy. You see how the goalposts moved? No, babe. When we started out, this was a team effort. We were going to split everything as was possible in this misogynistic society that pays you more than it pays me. Okay? We were going to split this evenly. But you manipulated me into thinking I was doing something good for my own self, for my own career. And then you destroyed that for me by giving me other tasks and making them my responsibility or they wouldn't get done. And very quickly, I become the villain. And so I left. And when we sort of started working things out, I found out that the reason he brought me back in was to get rid of the mother that he brought in to manage me. He brought the mother in to manage me. Then she started doing shit that interfered with him. Now he needs to get rid of her. Who can he bring in to do that? Me. So he brings me in. She goes away. Then he proceeds to destroy his relationship with me. He literally said in front of my kid that he never knew I had mental hang-ups, that he thought I could do literally anything at any time. For the longest time, he thought that. And he's only just now realizing that I have mental hang-ups too. Are you dumb? Like, is it just me, or does that sound a lot like black people don't feel pain the same way white people do? Right? Okay. So he thought I was more capable of doing these things. So he put them on me. He never stopped to ask, are you capable? Do you feel... He never bothered to find out what was going on in my emotional space at all. Not to mention the fact that ADHD and autism I've now been diagnosed with, and he doesn't want to listen to that. He doesn't want to hear how executive dysfunction works. So now he's over here telling me I'm a lazy son of a bitch who just wants his money. Okay, sounds like a plan. If that's what you're going to think of me, I might as well do it. But see how the goalposts moved? And now I'm the villain. So he can justify all the bad things he's already done and the ones he wants to do because I'm a villain. The goalposts move. And they let them move. And they get reinforcement for them moving. They all end this way. Even those of you who have good relationships with your male partners, I promise you, this has come up before. And it will come up again. Unless that man is clocking his own misogyny and maintaining it constantly, trying to undo it, unpack it, unless he's doing that, it's going to keep happening. This has a negative, lasting impact on relationships. and moving forward too, because you start to think it's the woman's problem. Since it keeps happening, it must be women that are... Think of your partner as a man. I know it probably squicks you out because homophobia is part of misogyny, but imagine your partner was a man. Sit there and do it in your head until you can see your partner as a man. How would you treat them if they were a man? Okay. You would not go up to a man and say, I expect you to do 100% of the housework, and if you don't, I'm going to say it makes you a bad person. You would not do that. Why does it default that that's okay to say to women? Why is that default there? Because we let it be there. We, as parents, we moms, we let it be there. We got to stop that. It's not happening anymore. We're not going to worship the ground you walk on. We're not going to maintain their perfect golden children. We're not going to do it. We're not going to make those people either. We're not going to make them. Misogyny and anything that has a bias to it, it's real comfortable, right? But it doesn't actually solve the problem because it's not rational. It's not a solution. It's just masturbation